So it looks like we are ready to get started. So we'll go ahead and kick it off. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second policy convening. We'll get started in just a moment, but before we do that, I want to throw it over to Max very quickly to just go over some housekeeping matters before we begin.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Again, welcome everybody. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items, as Catherine said. So first and foremost, this session will be recorded and may be shared after the event or posted online for public viewing. By remaining in the webinar, you acknowledge that you are aware of and consent to being recorded. If you prefer not to be recorded, please just keep your camera off and avoid being muted. Because this is a webinar format, all participants are muted by default. If you would like to make a comment during the meeting or during the public comment, please use the raise hand feature, and when time permits, we will call on you and unmute you. If you have questions, please submit them using the Q&A panel. We'll do our best to answer questions as they come in, read selected questions aloud if time allows, and we will also share a Q&A summary shortly after the webinar. There will be a public comment section later in the session. If you plan to make a public comment, we ask that you keep your remarks brief, respectful, and professional so that everyone who wishes to speak has time to do so before the meeting ends. Thank you. With that, I will give the floor back to Catherine.
Thank you, Max. Appreciate you going over those things. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Squire, and I'm a legislative analyst with the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our second quarterly policy convening of the year, and we're very excited to be co-hosting this one with the California Legislative Women's Caucus. So we actually have Salema from the Women's Caucus today, who in a bit is going to share more about the focus of their policy work this year. The Commission will also be sharing some legislative updates on our own package later in the meeting as well. And then we'll also hear a welcome from Commissioner Caroline Brewster from the Marin Women's Commission. So that is a bit on our schedule for today, but I'm first very excited to introduce Commissioner and Assemblymember Gail Pellerin, who will be kicking off this convening today. The Assemblymember represents the 28th District, spanning Santa Cruz County, which she has been elected to since 2022. She's known for her deep commitment to uplifting women in California, work and policy related to elections, and also mental health. And with that, I am very excited to introduce her as our first speaker.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. As she said, my name is Assemblymember Gail Pellerin, and I represent the beautiful 28th Assembly District, which includes portions of Santa Cruz and Santa Clara counties. I was recently appointed commissioner to this amazing organization. I've been following commissions on the status of women and girls for years at the county and state level, and the work that you do to promote equality for women and girls is outstanding. And today's convening and those like today are so critical. They create spaces where we can be vulnerable, where we can share ideas, where we can support one another, and where we can set the priorities and advocacy platform for the commission. Women and girls are impacted every day by everyday issues differently. Issues surrounding access to childcare affect us differently. In fact, my kids are 28 and 31 now, and when I was a working mom, when they were kids, I was struggling getting the right childcare at the right price point and trying to manage it all. And here I am now in the legislature, still battling for childcare resources, and I can't believe we're still not figuring this one out. Because when our kids are struggling, getting access to nutritious food, it hits us all differently. And issues of violence impact us differently as well. It's the work of the commission and these convenings that ensure we don't forget that and remind us why we continue to fight for every woman and every child in this state. I do a lot of work around survivors of human trafficking as well, and that issue is something that is getting worse and worse by the day, it feels like. And not only young women and men being trafficked for sex, but also for labor. But one of the spaces that I'm excited to work closely with the commission on is mental health. And mental health has impacted my family profoundly. And I've used my own personal grief as a platform here as a state assembly member to bring attention to the issue of mental health, to remind everyone that it's okay to not be okay and that mental health is health. And we are in a mental health crisis. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I want to encourage all of you to take time this month to do something for you, make that a consistent practice that you do all the time, taking care of you. Self-care is very powerful. It could be as simple as going for a walk and being with nature. It could be spending the evening with friends or cooking your favorite comfort food, but always prioritize yourself and don't get yourself lost in all the many things that you're managing. When I first came to the assembly, I pushed to have the 988 number posted in every single bathroom. It took several months to do that, but I got it done because having that access to this essential and critical hotline should not be shameful. It should be promoted. And I think having it out there for everyone to see makes it normalize the fact that that's okay to reach out for help and have that easy to remember number you can call or text 24/7, 365. And this year I'm also working on legislation, AB 1988. We're calling it the Pause Act. And what often starts as an innocuous conversation with a chatbot, helping with the user's daily tasks, turns into conversations sometimes where the users are confiding in the chatbots about their own mental health struggles. And for a society in which loneliness is recognized as a mental public health crisis, emotional support from chatbots is an easy answer. Chatbots are available around the clock. They are immediate responders, and they can be a safe space for intimate expression without judgment. But artificial intelligence is not emotional intelligence. And as people turn to chatbots for advice on acts of violence, it's paramount that we do not expect AI systems to regulate themselves. So this bill requires the chatbot operators to establish minimum standards for addressing safety threats by users and ensures that prompts requesting dangerous advice are flagged for human review. And it stops the conversation. So that's where the pause comes in, where they can't continue to get reinforcement for what they're thinking about doing. Later this summer, I'll introduce a resolution to designate September as Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, to raise awareness around the stigmas around suicide, stigmas that I once believed myself. As an example, suicide is not a selfish act. It is an act of desperation when people feel like there is no place for them in this world. And I have shared that my husband of 25 years died by suicide in November of 2018. And that was something that rocked my family to its core. And we've all been on this very difficult path of grief that will carry with us the rest of our lives. But early on, when I went to hear a speaker talk, they talked about putting your grief to work. And that really resonated with me. So that is why I try to be a voice and a face for suicide prevention. And we actually sponsor an event in my district where we honor mental health heroes in September, as well as provide a resource fair around physical and mental health. I'm the chair of the Assembly Elections Committee, and I bring more than 27 years of experience to this space. I served as the chief elections official in Santa Cruz County, and I'm in the business of enfranchising voters, and I'm working to do all I can to ensure California's continues to be the gold standard for how we ensure every single eligible voter is able to vote without fear, without intimidation, and with ease, and that we can ensure that when that ballot is returned, that vote is counted and securely counted. Of course, Election Day is 2 weeks away, so I encourage all of you, if you haven't voted yet, to get that ballot in. And we're going to be working on messaging as well around making sure we're informing voters to get that ballot to the elections official no later than 8 p.m. election night. There's a lot of lawsuits pending around postmark and a lot of changes to the Postal Service. So we want to have really good messaging to our voters to ensure that that ballot gets returned on time so it will be counted and not part of any lawsuit that might be happening. As a member of the Women's Caucus, we are also working on some exciting legislation, from ensuring local elected officials can take maternity leave without fear of being removed from office, to modifying our baby safe surrender laws, to improving lactation access to child care accessibility. And as I work through these bills, as my colleagues move their bills, your support, your expertise, and your input is welcomed and valued. So I look forward to our continued partnership. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be a commissioner.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Pellerin, for really speaking to much of this important work that you're doing this year, highlighting what priorities there are for the legislature this year, and also just how important these policy convenings are to supporting that work through the remainder of the legislative process. We are deeply thankful to have you on the call today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So next on the agenda, I'm really excited to also introduce Commissioner Caroline Brewster from the Marin Women's Commission, and she'll also be sharing some remarks and also share a little bit about the current work that the Marin Commission is working on. So I will go ahead and pass it off to Caroline.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And it's delightful to see and be connected with so many commissioners from around the state again. I was so privileged to be able to participate in the first in-person state convening earlier this year. And it's just a delightful fact that we're continuing this work of being more connected. And I appreciate the department for all your efforts to keep us all connected all over the state. And I learned when I was on the Future of California Elections, working with, at the time, Register of Voters, Gail Pellerin, never to follow her, but here I am following her. So I'm honored to be one of the Marin County Women's Commissioners. And I just wanted to highlight kind of where we are in relation to our policy work. And I'm really excited to be more informed and more involved and more strategize, frankly, with what's happening on the statewide level. In 2008 was the last time Marin County conducted a needs assessment focused on specifically women and girls in Marin County. It's 2026, in case anyone forgot what year we're in now. So as a commission, we are truly, truly energized, excited to be re-embarking on a updated needs assessment. It's a report called Women Speak. I shared it, and I don't know if it's possible to be shared out with this group, but it really kind of set the tone and gave us prioritizations and based upon the needs of women and girls in Marin. I'll call out just a couple things because there's a lot in there. One was the opportunity and the need among youth, and specifically kind of teenage girls. And that grew into what we know, and tell me if I'm wrong, if anyone in the state is doing this type of convening as well, but a conference focused solely on girls, high school age girls, bringing together girls all throughout Marin County to connect and really having them drive the programs and the activities that they were seeking, which obviously evolved from 2008 till today. It also really kind of became the main work of the commission, putting on an event at that level, really kind of took up our bandwidth. So we're really excited to be re-embarking upon this needs assessment to better focus our own commission's resources, but also help our supervisors and state assembly and senators know what the priorities and needs are of women and girls in Marin in 2026. So I'm just happy that I was able to give that quick highlight and update. I want to thank my sisters up in Sonoma. I see one of them on, and other kind of Bay Area folks that have, and down in LA was able to make some amazing contacts. and know that there's work being done. If anyone wants to connect about this type of needs assessment work, I would love to do that. And thank you again for this opportunity, Catherine, and to the department for creating this platform for us. And I'll chat my contact so we can connect after. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for sharing more about the work that the Marin Commission is doing. I know we're all very excited to be following that as well. So with that, I will just also add that a little bit later in the meeting, we'll also have some time carved out for our other local commissions on the call to also share updates on what they are currently working on, or also policies that you may be supporting as well. So we will get to that more toward the latter half of the meeting. Next, I'm very excited to introduce our co-host for this convening, and we are very thankful to have Sulema Landa from the California Legislative Women's Caucus today to share more about the caucus's legislative priorities for this year, now that we are further into the second year of this two-year session, and to highlight what issues are at the forefront of what is most impacting women and girls at this time. There will be some time after this presentation for discussion and for any questions you may have. So we will open up the floor then, and you can also chat your questions. But with that, I will pass it off to Sulema.
Thank you, Catherine. So I'm Sulema Landa. I'm the consultant for the Legislative Women's Caucus on the Assembly side. I work for the chair, Assembly Majority Leader Cecilia Aguirre Curry, and I work really closely with my two Senate counterparts, Karen and Margaret, who work for Vice Chair Senator Caroline Menjivar. I just want to thank the Commission for this opportunity to present our 2026 legislative package to you all. It's a set of policies designed to strengthen economic security, expand opportunity, and improve the health and safety of women, children, and their families. The Women's Caucus budget and legislative priorities, they're chosen based on the importance and urgency in improving the lives of women and their families. Each spring, we go through a process where the full caucus reviews and votes on priority legislation package organized around 6 policy pillars. Those pillars are addressing poverty and affordability, child care and education equity, gender violence and public safety, healthcare and health equity, vulnerable communities, and workplace and economic equity. Together with these priorities guide our efforts to advance equity, opportunity, and economic security for Californians. I'm going to go ahead and start with, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. I'll go ahead and start with our addressing poverty and affordability pillar. Under this pillar, we have 2 bills. AB 1755 is authored by Assemblymember Sharp Collins. This bill would eliminate outdated CalWORKs work hour restrictions that can cause families to lose critical assistance simply because they are working more hours. This bill recognizes that families should be supported and not penalized as they move toward economic stability and self-sufficiency. Next is SB 1030 by Senator Smallwood Cuevas. This bill repeals the outdated man in the house statute. It's a policy rooted in discriminatory welfare practices that can unfairly impact family eligibility for assistance programs. This bill would modernize CalWORK's policy and help ensure families are treated with dignity and fairness. We can go to the next slide. Under our Child Care and Education Equity pillar, AB 1590 by Assemblymember Ransom supports full funding for career technical education programs, helping ensure students gain a hands-on experience and workforce skills in industries that are critical to California's economy. Extending these programs creates stronger pathways to stable, well-paying careers. And the second bill is AB 1981, authored by the chair, the True Cost of Child Care Act. It addresses the growing child care crisis by recognizing the real cost of providing quality child care. This bill seeks to improve affordability for families while also supporting childcare providers who are essential to working parents in California's economy. We can go to the next slide. Under our gender violence and public safety pillar, we have 3 bills. AB 788, it's actually a 2-year bill that is still moving by Assemblymember Quirk Silva. This bill focuses on rehabilitation, trauma-informed care, and re-entry support for incarcerated women. This bill aims to improve safety and reduce recidivism by ensuring women have access to the services and support they need while incarcerated and after release. AB 2434 by Assemblymember Bonta. It's her Visitor Protections and Safety Act. It strengthens protections for individuals visiting correctional facilities by promoting safer visitation environments and greater accountability. And SB 1192 by Senator Susan Rubio. This is the Reclaim Act. It expands resources and support services for survivors of violence and vulnerable individuals, helping communities invest in prevention, recovery, and long-term safety. Next slide. In our healthcare and health equity, we have 2 bills, AB 1570, authored by Assemblymember Wilson. This bill improves access to medically necessary diagnostic imaging by addressing insurance barriers that can delay care and treatment. We know early diagnosis is critical, and this bill would help patients receive timely medical attention. This bill actually died in appropriations last week, unfortunately, but I still wanted to keep it in here because it was selected as a priority, and I wanted to just share how important this bill would have been should it have moved forward. AB 2066 by Assemblymember Rodriguez recognizes pregnancy as a qualifying life event for health insurance enrollment, allowing pregnant individuals to access healthcare coverage outside traditional enrollment periods. This helps ensure timely prenatal and maternal care. Next slide. Under our workplace and economic equity pillar, we have AB 65, also a 2-year bill authored by the chair, Majority Leader Aya Curry. This is the Pregnancy Leave for Educators Act. It expands pregnancy leave protections for educators and helps ensure they can maintain job security and benefits while caring for themselves and their families. Looks like there's going to be funding for it in the budget. So thanks, Governor. That's a big victory. It just needs to be passed by the legislature now. So we're very hopeful that we'll be able to get some protections for our educators who are currently having to pay their subs in order to stay home with their children. AB 2134 by Assemblymember Addis establishes parental leave accommodations for local elected officials, recognizing the importance of supporting working parents and public service and creating more family-friendly government institutions. And SB 1237 by Senator Blakespear strengthens enforcement of California's equal pay laws by improving accountability and helping close persistent wage gaps that disproportionately affect women and communities of color. Next slide, please. Last but not least, our vulnerable communities pillar. We have 2 bills here, AB 1628 by Assemblymember Michelle Rodriguez. The Keeping Infants from Danger Act would expand California's safe surrender law by allowing parents to legally surrender a newborn up to 30 days old instead of the current 72-hour limit. It applies to designated hospitals, fire stations, and other approved safe surrender sites. The bill keeps protections that prevent parents from being prosecuted for abandonment when they safely surrender the child. And last but not least, AB 1602 by Assemblymember Blanca Rubio. This bill ensures that foster youth can access disaster aid and emergency relief services during natural disasters and emergencies, helping provide stability and support during times of crisis. Together, these bills represent a very comprehensive effort to build a more equitable, affordable, and inclusive California for all. I'm really happy to see that 2 of these bills are also being prioritized by the Commission, so thank you for that. I think it's AB 2066 and AB 1602. And we can go on to the next slide. And here is the big ask. This is our budget priority letter included all of these items. Um, it's around $500 million that we're asking the governor and budget chairs to support. It's focused on childcare, women's health, domestic violence, and gender-based violence, and incarcerated women's services. For childcare, we're asking $336 million to honor the commitment to reach and fund the 206,000 new childcare spaces by fiscal year 2029. By including the promised 44,000 slots in this year's budget. We're also asking for $16.5 million in one-time funding to support diaper banks that increase access to diapers and wipes for California families in need. For women's health, we're asking for $5 million one-time funding for the Center for Reproductive Health, Law, and Policy at UCA Law School. It provides urgent legal services as well as vital reproductive health data that supports equity advocates and policy innovation. $5 million one-time funding for the California Black Women's Collective to support their work in further advancing research, leadership, development, and policy innovation that benefit Black women and girls throughout California. $30 million to fund the Uncompensated Care Abortion Access Grant Program, which ensures abortion and contraception services are affordable for and accessible to all patients seeking the essential health services across the state, regardless of their ability to pay. $3 million to redirect the allocated funding to the UC Menopause Center of Excellence to support the statewide campaign on perimenopause and menopause. And additionally, in response to HR 1's administrative changes to healthcare and social safety net programs, we're urging investments to offset both the CalFresh and Medi-Cal workforce burdens that will hit our county's eligibility workers. For domestic violence and gender-based violence, we're asking for the $100 million in one-time funding to address a shortfall in Federal Victims of Crime Act funds for victim service programs. And lastly, under incarcerated women, we're asking for $25 million one-time funding for the RIGHT grant program, which supports gender responsive and trauma-informed care and equity and access to reaching women's prisons for family visitations. $5.5 million for the Home After Harm program, expanding the 10-month program that provides healing-focused programming for incarcerated women to be able to safely return home, and $1.1 million one time for the Menopause Project, which would improve access to menopause education and clinical care for aging incarcerated women. That is all I have for you. Just want to thank you for your time and encourage you all, where appropriate, we'd appreciate letters of support for our bills that are still moving, testimony if you're able to come to Sacramento. Any support is appreciated as we keep moving these bills through the process and hopefully onto the governor's desk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Salema, for that really comprehensive update on sort of what the Women's Caucus has been working on this year and what legislative priorities continue to be at the center of kind of the policy agenda for women and girls this year. With that, we do have a few minutes for any questions that there may be for Salema and the Women's Caucus on their priorities. So we'll go ahead and open the floor. And Max and Yachting, if you can just flag any questions that we have. And you can also use the raised hand function. Max, I believe we have one question.
Yes,
Be able
I
to.
am pulling
Thank you.
slowly. Oh, there we go. Chloe, if you could hear us, I gave you the capability. Just come off mute, please.
Chloe, it looks like you're still muted. Can you make that request again, Max?
Yeah, I still have her set up as capable of coming off mute. If we want to, while I look at that, we can move to the next individual who has their hand raised and see if it works for them.
That looks, let's do that. Let's move to the next question.
Okay. Yeah, hi. My name is Rima Shibi. I'm a commissioner on the Orange County Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, and this is my first quarterly meeting, and I was wondering if there's any emphasis on ending child marriage and ending human trafficking among children, among minors.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Rima. Not currently in this bill, but I know there's been legislation set forth, I believe a couple years ago by Assemblymember Petrie Norris, and it looks like that work is continuing. Uh, there is a member of the caucus who has committed to work on that next year. I don't know if it's public, so I don't want to say her name, but just know that we do have a member of our caucus who is going to continue that work next year.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
If Chloe wants to put hers in the chat, I'm happy to answer it that way. I can read the question.
It looks like she just put it in the chat. She is asking about the caucus's stance on AB 1940.
1940. What bill is that one? Can't menopause bill.
Still, it's like
Let's see. So by Assemblymember Calderon, thank you for that. Yes. So it's not a priority for the Women's Caucus. That doesn't mean that our members individually are not supporting it. We're very in support of anything related to perimenopause and menopause. We're happy that more people are paying attention to it and wanting to, do some work in this space. So, um, let's see, Chloe's asking chances of passage, do you think? Gosh, I can't say. If it made it out of approps, I think it has a good chance.
it is still making its way through the process, but it did just pass Appropriations Committee, Chloe, just to let you know. So it is currently being considered by the legislature on the floor. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? See a hand from Caroline.
Yeah, just related to the HR1 advocacy at our county levels, would love you to speak about any guidance or recommendations about that. It's so impactful to so many of our populations and obviously a big issue. So would just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, we're having, I don't know like too in depth what's going to happen. But we are working really closely with our Assembly Budget Chair to make sure that we're getting support there where it's needed. We understand that it'll impact women. Um, I think disproportionately impact women. And so just working really closely. I'm happy to connect with you separately and just talk about it a little more if you'd like. I'll put my email in the chat.
Awesome, thank you. And just to say to the other commissioners, we just had a meeting with our legislative aide at Marin County, and who was very receptive to hearing all of our thoughts and commented, oh wow, none of the other commissions reach out and engage with me in this way. So I'm sure many of you are doing this, but just to note that that's another way to have impact and also find out what's locally happening.
Thank you, Caroline. Do we have any other questions? I think we have time for one or two more, if there are any more. Max, do we have any questions in the chat at this time?
There are no new questions in the chat. No.
Okay, well, it looks like we're going to move into the next part of our agenda, but thank you so much, Salema
Thank
from the Women's
you.
Cause, for being with us and being a co-host for this convening. And we'll also be talking a little bit about how our local commissions can help support these priorities, of which we do have some crossover with those two bills, and also did have some crossover with AB 1570 Wilson, which we were very much in strong support with. Thank you, Salema. So with that, we will go ahead and move into the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls policy report. Max, if we can put those slides back up. So since our previous policy convening earlier this year, at the time the Commission had not adopted a legislative package. That has since changed, and we're excited to be able to share more with you about that and update you on our priorities for the year. If we can go to the next slide. The Commission ultimately took 6 positions of co-sponsorship on 6 bills, as well as nearly 20 support positions for almost 20 other bills that were considered, in large part due to the conversations that were had with our local commissions at our 60th anniversary event last year. And so several of these bills do align with the priority areas that were identified at that event, as well as the few that we have overlapping with the Women's Caucus, of course. And so I just want to highlight a few of those that kind of fall within those shared goal areas. We're very proud to be co-sponsoring firstly AB 1709 by Assemblymember Lowenthal this year, which seeks to ban users under 16 years of age from being able to create social media accounts and establishes an e-safety commission. This is an extremely important bill this session as legislators seek to instill more safeguards and protections around digital safety and outlining when it is appropriate developmentally and emotionally for you to have access to these types of online spaces. This has also been led in large part by several legislators who make up a parental coalition, so many of them being parents themselves and having kids. On the same note of support for children and youth, childcare has also remained a central priority of the Commission and the legislature. We are also co-sponsoring AB 1914 by Assemblymember Schiavo on ensuring local entities have plans to meet childcare needs when they are building housing. As we know, childcare continues to be in deep demand for women and families, as well as access to affordable quality childcare. So this bill aims to have local cities and counties take that into account when they are creating their housing plans and in providing that as a resource already where women and families live. So this is also addressing sort of the housing needs that women and families have, which we know was also a main priority that was identified by our local commissions. And then in line with the statewide convening, identifying safety as really an overarching issue this year, we currently co-sponsor and also support a number of bills that aim to really protect women from issues such as domestic violence, making it easier for them to get longer protective orders, such as with SB 99, Blakespeare, and SB 1395 Valadares, both of which the Commission is co-sponsoring, and as well as several support bills that address additional initiatives aimed at helping reduce human trafficking and generally any other gender-based violence as well. So these bills, as Salema hinted at, are at various stages at this point in the legislative process. Majority of them are at the floor, so this is a great time to be submitting support letters, and where submitting support letters are extremely powerful and helpful, especially done in a collective manner. And so we'll talk a little bit after this about sort of different ways that folks can support those priorities collectively. But with that kind of ends our policy report from the commission side. You can also find our full list of priorities on our website. If we can go ahead and put that link in the chat for anyone who would be interested to see our additional support bills, and happy to take any questions. I know we also have our legislative director, Alex, on the call, who would also be happy to jump in if you have any questions. So I will end it there and see if we have any questions in the chat or by raised hand feature. Safety bills, we have a great number of them in our support list that are not listed here, but a couple of our co-sponsored bills are SB 99 on this is a Blake Spear bill that allows courts to consider existing military protective orders when they're deciding to issue new protective orders and allowing law enforcement to verify them. And then also SB 1395, Valadares. Both of these are commissioner-sponsored bills as well that allows courts to issue protective orders valid up to, apologies, this is a typo, 20 years when people are convicted of certain crimes. And so those are the safety bills. Max, do we have any other questions in the chat? Raised hands?
No additional questions in the chat or raised hands at this time.
Perfect. So if we can just move forward with the next slide. And so I think as Salema talked about a bit as well, this is a really kind of pivotal time that local commissions can take actions to support these bills. They're currently in the floor process and will be getting to their second house in the coming weeks. And so definitely submitting support letters to the California Legislature position letter portal can help a lot with moving these bills forward. If you're able to come to Sacramento and you happen to be local, providing me to testimony in committees that bills are heard in. You can also use the Cal Ledge info website to see when bills are set. But also the commission promotes a lot of these bills via our social media. And so elevating that work, reposting that, and also sharing about those priorities on social media can help as well. And so we hope that you are able to kind of take action and help us kind of collectively support these priorities that we know are deeply impactful and address issues that these local convenings, these convenings with our local commissions have been identifying. So that's really our call to action. Happy to take any questions at this point, and next we'll move into any updates that our local commissions would also like to share as far as your policy work or other sort of priorities that you may want to share with the group.
Is there a commissioner from Santa Cruz on? If not, I will share some information that they shared with us and asked us to share with this group. The Santa Cruz County Women's Commission sent a letter to their Board of Supervisors asking for support for a number of bills that they feel was important to their commission. So the bills that they listed are AB 65, the Pregnancy Leave for Educators Act by Aguilar Curry, AB 788, Rehabilitation and Safety for Incarcerated Women by Quirk Silva, AB 1570, Healthcare Coverage Diagnostic Imaging by Wilson, AB 1755, Ending CalWorks Work Hour Restrictions by Sharp Collins, AB 1981, The True Cost of Child Care Act, Aguilar Curry, AB 1876, Equitable Care for All Acts, Addis, AB 2066, Pregnancy Qualifying Life Event, Rodriguez, SNSB 1237, Pay Equity Enforcement by Blake Spear.
Thank you so much, Yachting, for sharing that. And I did see a question about social media handles, and I believe you're putting that information in the chat as well. I
Yes,
see a couple
and
hands raised.
Catherine, we have Chair Christine Custodio from, I believe it looks like San Diego, ready with her hand up. So I'm going to go ahead and give her the ability to come off mute now.
Thank you.
Hi, good
Okay.
afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. I am Christine Custodio Suero. I'm the chair of the San Diego County Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. And I just wanted to provide an update with regard to our CEDA implementation that I believe that the report has been made public with regard to the data collection piece, and that we are going to be moving into the action plan, the 5-year action plan, as part of our ordinance. So very interested in hearing from other commissions on their process, specifically with regard to CEDA. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. It looks like
And
we
now
have
we
another
have,
hand.
yes, Diana Orochi just gave you the ability to come off mute.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the executive director of the San Francisco Department on the Status of Women, and I believe our president is also on the line, President Jones Lowry, for our commission. We wanted to share that we are supporting formally, in behalf of San Francisco, 2 bills, AB 1973, which would expand the list of certified providers authorized to administer abortion care, including nurse practitioners, certified nurse midwives, and physician assistants. We also are supporting AB 1876, the Fair Care for All Act, which would codify federal non-discrimination protections under Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act in California. And it really does strengthen protections against discrimination. We are also specifically looking at our CDOT ordinance. So I'm curious, whoever spoke up about their implementation and action plan, we're actually looking at revisions to our CDOT ordinance in order to further align the implementation priorities to our recently launched women's agenda, which was launched in March. We're waiting to basically look at different forms of feedback. We're looking at Santa Clara. And again, if there's any other feedback from anyone on the call, we would really appreciate it. Just how you actually moved forward with current needs, how you updated CEDA as a mandate today, and how you're looking at including gender expansive communities. The other areas that I would mention is today we are working with our local legislators to also look at fair chance protections, to actually prohibit discrimination in housing and employment tied to reproductive health care decisions or lawful abortion related care that occurred outside of California. We are also we introduced with our local supervisor legislation to look at eligibility threshold changes, where we're looking at our family paid leave protections from 120 days of employment to now reducing it to 90 days, similar to what Seattle has done, where they look at an access to paid family leave at a lower threshold in order to support more women coming into the workforce as caregivers, and just in general into employment. I'm separate and aside from that, we're curious about femicide and how femicide laws have been implemented at all or have been discussed in California. It relates to the Women's Agenda, which, by the way, you can find on our website at sfdlsw.org. Happy to also provide you all the links on the chat. We're very curious about how Italy, Spain, other countries have actually moved forward a specific codified law within their penal code system. And we're looking at trying to explore that opportunity if we can, and partner with any legislator that would be interested. And with that, thank you. And this is my first meeting, so nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Diana, and welcome. And thank you for highlighting those issues. We definitely love to connect, I think, after this convening. Any other comments?
No other hands raised or questions in the chat.
Okay, amazing. Do we have any public comment? Oh, I think we have one more, Max.
Yes, Susan, and you can now come off mute. Susan Kokoris, you have the ability to come off mute. She may be experiencing some issues as well. Susan, if you'd like to type in to the chat any questions or comments that you may have. For now, we'll move on to Joanne. Joanne, you can now come off mute. Joanne, it looks like you're still on mute, Joanne.
How about that?
Now we can hear you.
Perfect.
Good, thank you. Sorry. I'm on the commission, the Status of Women in Sonoma, have been on it for many years. Some years more exciting than others. Some years I thought we had more impact. Some years just frustrating. Lots of years frustrating, I should say. We've been doing some interesting panels. We called them hearings. They're really not. They're more like forums on topics that we thought were super important and trying to get a lot of community participation. The last one, or the most recent one we did, was on the impact of our current state and national economy and culture on aging and women who are in their senior years. And I thought it would be pretty much, data and policy and whatever. It was absolutely amazing. We had tremendous participation. We had lots of issues come up that I didn't expect, even though I sort of chronologically in that category. And it just told us clearly that we were not digging deep enough into the various ways in which economy and aging multiply to make life really hard for women, not just across ethnic barriers, but across geographic barriers in our county. So I found that to be a really good tool to encourage us to dig more deeply into this topic. And I'm just sort of passing that experience on to all of you.
Thank you, Joanne, for sharing that. And we definitely welcome any kind of links or resources to be dropped in the chat as well on that information. And then I think we still have a hand from Susan, Max.
Yeah, Susan, are you able to come off mute now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there's quite an echo, but we could hear you.
Okay, I can't get rid of the, I think I'll go back to chat and just put my question in there. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Do you have any other questions in chat, Max?
No other questions at this time.
Do we have any public comment today as well as we move into the end of this convening?
I'm not seeing anybody raising their hand, and it looks like folks in the chat are just sharing information at this time.
Okay. Well, while Susan's putting her question in the chat, maybe we can go ahead and reshare the slides, Max. It looks like it's off to the side. If we can go back to sort of the end of the slide deck.
Absolutely. 1 second.
It looks like we get Susan's question?
Yeah, it looks like San Mateo County had a needs assessment and wanted to share it with the statewide commission. Susan, why don't you send it to me? I put my email in the chat, and it'll either be me or Enrica, who is our programs director. But please send that on. Thank you.
Just resent Alex's email if you'd like to take that contact information. All right, so it doesn't look like we have any other questions or public comment. So with that, I want to just take a moment to thank everyone for coming to the second policy convening. We hope that you got some helpful information on sort of policy priorities from the California Commission and also the Women's Caucus that we hope you'll take back to your local commissions to discuss how you can support these priorities collectively with us as they continue to move through the process. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close out this policy convening. And our next policy convening will be taking place on Monday, August 10th, 2026. So we'll be sending out details for that as that gets closer. But thank you everyone for joining, and I will drop my contact in the chat as well if you'd like to email me any further questions.